Ethan Parker leaned back on the worn leather sofa, a smirk playing on his face. The room smelled faintly of pizza and soda, and his friends laughed around him, tossing empty soda cans into a pile on the floor. The small apartment was messy, cluttered with books, gadgets, and the occasional video game controller. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight they were bored, and boredom was the perfect place for mischief. "Come on, Ethan," his best friend Jake said, leaning forward with a grin. "I dare you to do something wild. Something no one else would even dream of doing." Ethan raised an eyebrow, already enjoying the challenge. "Wild? What do you have in mind?" "You know," Jake said, lowering his voice like he was about to reveal a secret of the universe. "Something that scares the hell out of everyone. Something legendary." Ethan's smirk widened. "You're talking about a vampire, aren't you?" The room erupted into laughter. "Exactly," Jake said. "I bet you can't even get close to one, let alone date one." Ethan leaned forward, resting his chin on his hands. "Date a vampire?" His voice was teasing, but his heart thumped faster. Not from fear. He had never been afraid of legends, but from excitement. "All right, I'll do it. I bet I can date a vampire. And not just that, I'll make her fall for me." The room went silent. His friends stared at him in disbelief, their laughter gone, replaced by shocked expressions. "You're insane," Jake said finally. "Do you even know what a vampire is? They're immortal, dangerous, and don't get me started on the biting part." Ethan laughed, waving a hand. "I've read the stories. I've seen the movies. Vampires are myths, and even if they're real, what's the worst that can happen? A little bite? I've handled worse in school detention." His friends shook their heads, muttering about how foolish he was, but Ethan didn't care. He loved a challenge, especially one that seemed impossible. The next night, Ethan found himself walking through the city's abandoned district. The streets were silent except for the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hum of electricity. Moonlight spilled over cracked asphalt and shadows stretched long and dark. He tightened the jacket around his shoulders, partly to keep warm, partly to feel braver. Selene was waiting. Of course, he didn't know what she would look like, only that she would appear if the bet was to be fulfilled. He had chosen the old district because it was empty, quiet, and perfect for something extraordinary. A soft hiss of air made him freeze. From the shadows stepped a woman. She was tall, with long black hair that shimmered under the moonlight. Her eyes were a color he had never seen before, golden, almost glowing, piercing straight into him. Her lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "Ethan Parker," she said, her voice smooth like silk and sharp like a knife. "You made a bet that you would date a vampire." Ethan's throat went dry. He forced a grin. "And you are?" "Selene," she said, stepping closer. Every movement was graceful, almost unreal. "I accept your bet. Are you ready to face the consequences?" Ethan swallowed, but he didn't back down. "I guess I am. I like challenges." Selene's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Bold, very bold. Most humans flee when they see me." Ethan straightened, puffing his chest. "Well, I'm not most humans." Selene led him through the abandoned streets to an old cathedral, its windows shattered and walls covered in ivy. Inside, moonlight filtered through the broken roof, casting eerie patterns on the floor. The air smelled faintly of moss and old stone. "This is beautiful," Ethan said, trying to hide his nervousness. He had read about vampires, but being near one was different. There was something about her presence that made his heart beat faster. Selene chuckled softly. "You humans always find beauty in decay, that is curious." They talked as they walked through the cathedral. Ethan told her stories about humans, about courage, curiosity, and foolishness. Selene listened, her golden eyes watching him closely. He realized that she wasn't just a vampire. She was intelligent, powerful, and a little dangerous. But she was also fascinated. "You are unlike any human I've met," she said finally, stopping in the center of the cathedral. "Most would run or tremble. You intrigue me." Ethan grinned. "I guess that makes two of us, then." Suddenly, Selene moved closer. Her hand brushed his arm, and he felt a strange chill run through him. Before he could react, she leaned in, and he felt a sharp pressure on his neck. Her bite. Pain flashed through him, sharp and electric, but it was quickly replaced by warmth and a strange clarity. He didn't panic. Instead, he stood still, meeting her gaze. "You're not afraid," Selene whispered. "Not many humans can stay calm under the bite." I told you," Ethan said, his voice a little shaky but steady. "I'm not most humans." She smiled, a mix of admiration and something deeper he couldn't understand. Bold, clever, brave. Perhaps humans are more interesting than I thought. Ethan shook his head slightly, trying to ignore the strange feeling spreading through his veins. So, what now? Celine's eyes gleamed in the moonlight.
Now, we see if you can survive the night.
If you can, the bet continues. Ethan's grin returned. Bring it on. The night passed in a blur of strange sensations. Ethan felt stronger, faster, more alert. His senses were heightened, yet his human mind remained sharp. Celine taught him small things: how to move silently, how to sense shadows, how to feel the world in ways he never had before. Despite the danger, Ethan's confidence never wavered. He solved problems quickly, adapted to each challenge, and even made Celine laugh with his humor and unpredictability. She was impressed. You humans, she said finally, pausing in the moonlit cathedral, are not as weak as I thought. Perhaps there is more to you than mere mortality. Ethan looked at her, proud but humble. We survive, we adapt, and we never give up. That's human nature. Celine tilted her head, her golden eyes studying him. Perhaps that is why you fascinate me, courage. Wit, heart. I see all that in you, Ethan Parker. Most humans do not deserve the attention of a vampire, but you are different. Ethan felt a thrill of pride. For all his life, he had been told he was just another human, fragile and limited. But here, in the presence of an immortal being, his courage and cleverness shone. And Celine, for the first time, seemed genuinely impressed by a human. As dawn approached, Celine faded into the shadows, leaving Ethan standing alone in the cathedral. His neck tingled from the bite, and a strange warmth filled his chest. He knew this was only the beginning. The bet was no longer just a joke. Something had changed. Something had begun. Ethan smiled to himself, the city waking slowly around him. He had made a bet. He had faced a vampire, and for the first time in his life, he felt the thrill of being more than just human, of being someone extraordinary. Tomorrow, he whispered to the empty cathedral, we see where this goes. And in that moment, he realized that humans had a power that even immortals could respect: courage, heart, and the unshakable will to face the impossible. Ethan woke up the next morning in his small apartment, the sunlight streaming through the blinds and making the dust particles float in the air. The strange tingling on his neck reminded him of last night. The bite. It had left a warmth in his chest and an unusual clarity in his mind. He tried to shrug it off as adrenaline or imagination, but deep down, he knew something had changed. His friends were waiting in the living room when he entered. Jake's eyes widened as Ethan walked in, his movements confident and light. Dude, you're glowing, Jake exclaimed, waving his hands. Seriously, what happened last night? Ethan smirked, sitting on the sofa. Nothing, just a regular night, you know. Walking in the city, meeting someone unusual. Unusual? Another friend, Mia, shouted, flopping onto the armchair. Ethan, you promised you'd date a vampire, did you? Oh no, you didn't get bitten, did you? Ethan shrugged, letting a small smile creep onto his face. Maybe. But it didn't hurt much. And I'm fine. Jake leaned closer, lowering his voice. Are you serious, a vampire, like the real deal? Ethan nodded. Yes, real. And she's not what I expected. She's clever, strong, and curious about humans. Mia gasped. You're insane. Most humans wouldn't survive a single night with a vampire. Ethan leaned back, feeling a surge of pride. Well, I'm not most humans. That night, Ethan returned to the abandoned district, as if drawn by some invisible force. The streets were quiet, bathed in silver moonlight. Shadows stretched, long and dark, but Ethan moved confidently, not a trace of fear in his step. From the darkness, a soft sound made him stop. A figure emerged, tall and graceful. Celine. Her long black hair glimmered under the moonlight, and her golden eyes locked onto his. You came, she said, her voice smooth like velvet. Ethan grinned. Of course, I wouldn't miss the next part of the bet. Celine raised an eyebrow. The bet is no longer a game, Ethan. Last night you surprised me. Most humans would have panicked at my bite. But you stayed calm, clever, and brave. Ethan shrugged. I told you I'm not most humans. Celine smiled, a faint curve of her lips that sent a shiver down his spine. Bold, that is rare. But tonight, we face something more challenging. She led him to the cathedral again, its broken windows and ivy-covered walls casting eerie shadows. Ethan's senses were heightened. He noticed every sound, every movement, every flicker of light. The bite had given him clarity he had never felt before, and it made him feel more alive than ever. "Tonight," Celine said, moving silently across the stone floor, "you will learn what it means to face danger as a human and survive." Ethan followed her, his heart steady. "Bring it on." The cathedral echoed with the sound of wings. From the shadows, other vampires emerged, tall, ancient, their eyes glowing like molten gold. They surrounded Ethan and Celine, their expressions unreadable. "You dare to bring a human here, Celine?" one of them hissed. His voice was deep, filled with centuries of authority. Celine stepped in front of Ethan, her stance protective. "This human is not ordinary. He is brave, clever, and unafraid. He is my choice." The ancient vampire's gaze shifted to Ethan. "A human? You risk more than you understand." Ethan straightened, meeting the gaze of the centuries-old vampire. "I understand more than you think," he said, his voice calm but strong. "I adapt, I survive, and I fight when needed. I may be human, but I am not weak." Celine's eyes widened slightly. "Impressive," she whispered. The ancient vampires laughed, a sound like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "We shall see," they said, stepping back. Celine turned to Ethan. "This is your test. Show them the strength of humanity." Ethan's mind raced. He noticed the pattern in their movements, the shadows that shifted with the moonlight. He calculated quickly, using their overconfidence against them. When one lunged, Ethan sidestepped, ducked, and used a broken piece of stone to trip another. His movements were fluid, precise, and clever, showing not just courage, but intelligence. The ancient vampires stopped, watching in surprise. "Clever human," one hissed. Ethan grinned, feeling a thrill. "Clever, brave, and full of heart, that's human nature." Celine stepped closer, her eyes glowing faintly. "You are more than I imagined. Most humans would crumble, yet you—" Her voice softened, almost a whisper. "You are extraordinary." Hours passed in the cathedral, filled with training, dodging, and learning. Celine showed Ethan how to move silently, sense danger, and control his heightened senses. Ethan taught her in return. Humans are unpredictable, creative, and full of heart, lessons she found fascinating. At one point, Ethan laughed aloud as he dodged a vampire's strike in a clever maneuver. "You see?" he said, breathing heavily. "Humans adapt, we survive. That's why we're dangerous in our own way." Celine tilted her head, studying him. "You are fearless, clever, and alive in a way I have rarely seen. Most humans lack this spark. You—" She paused, her golden eyes fixed on him. "You are different." Ethan smiled, proud but humble. "I've always known humans are amazing. We just have to show it." As the night deepened, Ethan began to feel something strange. A warmth spread through his veins, a pulsing energy that made him sharper, faster, stronger. He realized it was the bite, still affecting him. But instead of fear, he felt exhilaration. He could sense Celine moving before she moved, hear her soft breathing from across the cathedral. His mind raced with new possibilities, new ideas, and new courage. Celine noticed. "The bite. It suits you," she said softly. "You are taking it in stride, not succumbing. That is rare, Ethan. You are becoming remarkable." Ethan laughed softly. "I told you I'm not most humans." She smiled, a soft, genuine smile, and for a moment, the centuries of her life seemed to melt away. "Perhaps humans are more impressive than I thought. Courage, cleverness, adaptability, and heart. You have it all." The first night ended with Ethan standing alone in the cathedral while Celine vanished into the shadows. The city was quiet again, and the moonlight bathed the broken walls in silver. He felt changed, not just by the bite but by the knowledge that humans had strength vampires could admire. Ethan whispered to himself, "This is just the beginning. Humans can survive anything, even the impossible." He left the cathedral with a new confidence, a deeper understanding of himself, and a strange, thrilling connection to Celine. The bet had started as a joke, a challenge, but it had grown into something more, something extraordinary. And somewhere in the shadows, Celine watched him leave, her golden eyes filled with curiosity, respect, and an emotion she rarely felt: admiration for a human,